In this session, we're going to look at DCAs or DCA groups. These are a feature on our desk which allow us to group together multiple channels for muting and for controlling the level. So it's quite a convenient way when you've got a band to group instruments or vocals together. And we've got a few of these already preset on the scenes that we typically use. So I'm going to split this session into two sections. In the first, I'll show you how you can use the already defined DCAs on the desk and what you expect you can do with them. And then in the second part of the session, I'm going to have a look at a bit more detail about how we set them up. And so how you can assign channels to them and reassign them and create your own if you want to. So first things, we'll get the band playing. So for the purposes of this, I've already got a scene loaded, pretty much where we left off on the previous sessions. And for this first part, I'll show you how you can use the DCAs. So on this scene I've got loaded, I've actually got 3 vocals channels in use, full setup, a guitar and keyboard. So they're my standard input channels that I would use. I've also then got 3 DCAs set up, which I'm going to show you a couple of them. So I've got one for vocals and one for band, and I'll explain what that means in a moment. So normally if I wanted to mute a channel, for instance, then I'd use the mute button here, so I can do that. So I can mute all the voices like that. That's nice and straightforward. However, what I could also do is those vocals are also all assigned to the vocals DCA. So that's this one here on the left. So if I wanted to mute all the vocals at once, I can just press that, and that achieves exactly the same as me pressing those individual mute buttons on those channels, because that's how it's set up. What you can also see at the same time is that the mute lights on those 4 channels are flashing. So solid means I've muted that channel on its own. Flashing like this means it's muted because I've done the DCA over here. Turn that off again and the mute lights go off. I can still do them individually. So I can mute 2 of the vocals. If I then mute the whole group, all the vocals are now muted because some are muted on their own and they're all muted through that. But what you can also see is the lights are differently flashing now. So the 2 that I'd muted already are more of a solid flash. That means I've muted that channel on its own and it's muted through the group. These 2 are flashing differently, which means they're only muted through the group. So if I turn that group off again, so that means I've got now control over that. I can do exactly the same with the band. I can mute the whole band and their lights flash. So if I do that and do that, I've actually muted the whole band very quickly. I could unmute the instruments, for instance, and just listen to the keyboard and then mute the whole lot. So you've got different combinations that you can work with there, which gives you different levels of control over it. So if I turn them all back on again, the other aspect of DCA is you control the fader level with it as well. So on these 2 that I've got set up, I've got a fader for them. And what that does is it's equivalent to me changing the faders on all the channels assigned to the group in one go. So for instance, if I want to make the instruments quieter, I can bring the band one down because the guitar and the keyboard are assigned to that. And the band is now quieter, bring them back up. Same with the vocals. And that's basically the same as me going over here and changing all of those faders in one go. But it's a lot easier than trying to keep them all together relative to each other. Is to do it with this. It also means if I want to make the whole band quieter, I've only got 2 to control. And that doesn't affect the main front of house or the radio mic or the handheld mic. So if somebody comes up to speak, for instance, and I want to make the band quieter, I can very quickly, easily drop the whole level down. They speak, I can bring the band up again. It makes it quite easy. So that covers all the essentials for using groups. In a moment I'll go on and show you how you set them up yourself. So for the second part of this session, I'm going to look at how you can set up your own DCA and how you can change the assignment of the channels. so that if you want to do that, you can create your own or amend the ones that are already there. It's quite a useful feature, and you save those with scenes, so it means that the next time you come back you can have the same groups you had last time, and it's quite a convenient thing to do. So what I'm going to do now for this is show you, talk through the routing a little bit, and then try to set some things up. So much as we did for processing, we need to select what we want to do. So previously we looked at the process section. If you look below the screen, there's a second button called routing, so we're just going to select that, and then we need to select the channel that we want to look at. So to start with, I'll look at the keys channel. So that brings me a summary similar to what we saw for processing, except this time it's now showing me what the this particular channel is. So the one I've selected is highlighted in green again, as it was previously, and the other channels are nearby. This is showing me the DCA assignment, and then it also shows me things like mute groups and whether it's going to the main, left and right, and various mixes. We're not going to touch on any of those, so I'll just tap on the bit I'm interested in again, so the DCA. So for keys, it's assigned to the brand DCA, which is what I'd expect from what we were looking at in the first half. If I tap on a different channel by the select key, I can navigate through those. It's guitar, vocals is assigned to the vocals group, as are the others in that. So that's easy. If I go back to keys, I can look at that. If I wanted to take it out of the band group, I could, and put it into vocals. I can do that. If I want to look at the whole group, I can either tap on the view button, so that takes me to that group that I looked at just now, or I can press the select key. If the group is visible on the faders at the moment, I can press the SCL on that one. So for instance, I'm on band, I press select key on the vocals, that shows me the vocals. Back to the band, we've got one for FX, that would show me that. So I can see those, and from there again I can take things out and add them in, so that gives me control over that. And you can see a little list on the side there of the ones that are in that group. If I go back to the summary, you can see for the DCAs themselves, it's just showing me a list of what channels are assigned to that. If I go back and look at this is the same routing build we started on. So if I wanted to set up a new DCA, for instance, let's set one up for the whole band. So what I want to do now is I'm going to assign all of my instruments to that. So I'll select it and go into the details. There's nothing selected at the moment, so I just press SEL on there. So again, I could go back to keys, for instance, and say, right, DCA4 is the one I've just created. So I could assign it there, press guitar, assign it there. Bit tedious, but quicker way is to go into that and say, right, let's assign all of my instruments that I'm currently listening to that one, and then I can press mute on that, and that'll mute and unmute the whole band, and let me control the level of the whole band. So that gives me a new DCA for everything. That overrides it. So you can have, as I've done here, you can have different instrument channels assigned to multiple DCAs. That's not a problem at all. The rule is that if it's muted once, it's muted. But hopefully that gives you an idea of what you can do with DCAs and a quick look at how we can set them up. And as I said before, they get saved. So if you set one up and you want to keep it, we can save that as part of a scene, and you can use that another time.